What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the live podcast. And today I'm super excited to be joined by a guy who I am just meeting right now. So it's cool to meet you. His name is Phil Harrington. He's a teacher in Lawton, Oklahoma, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you do and what you teach.
Well, I teach both AP English, both Lit and Lang, and a program that we call Esports. Well, a class that we call Esports, and I'm the Esports coach for MacArthur High School.
So I'm super excited and fascinated by this concept of being an esports coach. So are you telling me that you actually coach a team of kids who compete playing video games?
That's absolutely correct. We currently have four
Crazy.
active teams that play 4 different games, and about 42 students participate in the team, and about 120 students in my building participate in the class.
So explain to me how you get into this. How does this get going?
Well, I've been a lifelong gamer, all the way back to the original Nintendo and
Super Mario Brothers, the
Absolutely.
original. Me
Absolutely.
too, man. That was the game back in the day.
So I've always been interested in games. And a couple of years ago, when I was actually at a middle school here in the district, we got the opportunity through a partnership with an organization called Gear Up, or K20, from OU, to start what we started was one of the first esports clubs in town. And at the time, we just played Nintendo games, the Super Smash Brothers on the Switch. And then I got the opportunity to come up to the high school, and I said, well, we just started this thing at the middle school, and I'd really like to do it here too. And once again, with K20, we got to not only start it but expand it, because we're dealing with older students. We got to play some more mature games, more mature titles. We added Overwatch and Rocket League, and continued with Smash. But it was a way for us to increase student engagement, was the original idea. We have all these students who don't play sports, who don't play in the band, who aren't part of vocal music, and they have no real concrete connection to the building, to the community that the building that we try to create. And esports, competitive video game playing, was a way to reach them where they were at. In other words, that we could say, hey, that thing you're doing for fun for 8-10 hours a day when you're outside of here, you can do that here. And that our building in your school, in effect, is more than just for learning your ABCs and 2+2s, that it's a place where you can come together as a community too. And giving students that identity with the building gives them a greater connection to the building, and therefore to their studies and everything else that we want them to succeed at.
You know, I have a buddy who is basically in charge of running the Mercedes Dome in Atlanta, and the big stadium where the Falcons play. And he was telling me that they sell it out for the e-gaming championships, right? So like for the I guess, I don't know if it's worldwide or nationwide, but literally they will get 80 to 100,000 people in the stadium to watch people play video games, which is so fascinating because when I was a kid, right, everybody was like, you know, how are you going to make money playing video games? And can video games really be a thing in your life? And I guess we're sort of seeing in this new world that not only can it be a thing, but you can make a significant amount of money playing video games. Can you not?
Absolutely. As of, I think, 3 years ago, which is the last year I've seen concrete numbers for, it was about a $2.6 billion industry.
Crazy.
And that's just competitive gaming. That's not including just selling video games. That's not all lumped together. That's just in competitive gaming. And more universities are offering scholarships to students to come and play competitive video games for the universities. Most all of our local universities here in Oklahoma have some form of esports program. Whether or not they have paid scholarships is a different story, but quite a few of them do. We have a student at another local high school in the district who will be offered, I think, a $40,000 scholarship to play Rocket League, I believe, here this next year. And so
So
this
wait,
is
wait, 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 wait. I need to ask about that. So you're telling me that a kid at your school is potentially going to earn a $40,000 a year college scholarship to play a video game?
not at my school, at another school in the district, but yes, that's what he has been offered, and he'll have a signing day just like any other high school athlete, where he commits to a university, and it looks very much like your traditional athletics in that students have to stay eligible, and that this is a possible path for them for college, not only to attend a university but to have it paid for. Absolutely.
Wow, that's crazy. So how did you get into this? I know you said you're a lifelong gamer. Did you grow up playing games and were you that kind of kid?
Yes, I was definitely one of the kids that I would have been reaching out to now as an educator. Um, Never really had a connection with my building. I stopped doing any kind of organized activity, I think, in junior high, when my parents moved me from one town to another, and I guess maybe act of rebellion. I didn't know these kids my entire life. I didn't grow up with them, so I didn't really want anything to do with them. And if I'd been given the opportunity to join something that I was already passionate about, I feel like that could have given me a greater connection and maybe improved my grades and performance
Hmm.
personally. And because I know that connection and engagement, especially as an educator, I know that connection and engagement are the number one goal. Because without those things, you really can't teach kids anything unless
Man,
they connect or engage.
you totally get it. So were you a kid in school that had a hard time connecting and engaging?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was the stereotypical loner teenager, never really got out of the dressing in all black thing, but um, yeah, I
Looks good
didn't.
on you though. It looks good on
Thanks.
you.
I didn't really find a place in school for myself, and I've always felt like I was apart from them, and I see that in my students now, and I see that in those kids that come and spend 8 to 10 hours a week with me after school. That if it weren't for this place, they'd have one, maybe two friends, and that would be about it. They'd come here from 7:30 to 3 o'clock maybe, and go home and never think about school outside of those hours. And now I have, an Overwatch team that when we have a snow day is on our group Discord, going over tape and encouraging each other to get things done so that they don't enter the ineligibility list.
Wow.
That they've really come together as a community of students, and we really wanted to see that they took those responsibilities on themselves. Has been really rewarding.
What do you mean the ineligibility list? So they can literally be ineligible just like any other athlete. So if their
Abs-
great grades aren't up to par, or they're not doing what they're supposed to do, they're not playing video games.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. We are just now this year starting with the state of Oklahoma to partner with the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Athletics Association to make this a sanctioned activity, where all of the rules for any other competitive or group activity apply. And that includes eligibility, that if a student is not passing all of their classes, they cannot participate. And we, as a group, myself and the other coaches in town, we're holding our students to that standard before we actually started to become sanctioned, because as educators first, we know that their education has to come first, and this was a means for us to impress upon them the importance of that education. And if they can't stick it out in their classes, how can we expect them to give us the responsibility and the work ethic they need here playing for us?
So how did this, so I have two questions, right? Number one is how did this start for you in terms of the gaming thing at school? But I guess my first question before that is as a kid who kind of didn't feel connected yourself in school, and I don't know if you struggled academically in school, but socially it sounds like you did. What made you kind of flip that and say I want to become an educator and a teacher?
Okay, so both of those things have similar answers. For gaming in school, I sat on a board or a committee, to help allocate the funds from a grant. and we, myself and another educator at the middle school, kind of like we're like, hey, let's pitch this idea. They're never going to go for it. No one's ever going to be okay with us playing video games with students.
Right.
and surprisingly enough, they actually thought it was a great idea, and everyone got behind it, and our district then got behind us even further and helped with things like funding and building PCs and buying consoles and jerseys and whatnot. And so we've been really fortunate there. But it was really kind of a spur of the moment ask that we never really thought.
Who did you ask? So who do you go to for that?
At that time, it was the K20 Center at OU who is funding a grant to increase things like student engagement in the schools. Amazing. And as a ways to increase student achievement. And they saw this as an opportunity to reach students that weren't reached by the other traditional activities at a school. And we were really fortunate that they were willing and eager to work with us. And I think they've gone on to encourage other schools to follow our model, which is really rewarding. But we then went on to our district IT personnel, and the director of IT and our a superintendent and assistant superintendent have all been incredibly supportive. They all saw the benefit of this program right away and threw the weight of the district behind it, and we've been very grateful. But it was completely unexpected. I mean, if you'd have told me 3 years ago that, hey, English teacher, you're going to be teaching kids computer networking and PC fundamentals and how to play Overwatch more efficiently, then I would have told you that you were crazy.
Me too. I would have told you were crazy too. I would have told you were crazy if you told me that a week ago. And then they read this article about you and what you were doing, and I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. What are PC fundamentals? Right? So wait. Is this like baseball fundamentals? Like keep your hands in a certain spot, or basketball where you follow through with your jumper?
You could really, yeah, you could really think of it that way. So in competitive gaming, milliseconds count, and the difference between a 20 millisecond latency and a 10 millisecond latency can be the difference between winning and losing.
Sorry.
The time it takes for a computer to talk to another computer over the internet. And so kids have to know the ways that they can improve those latencies, get them down and make them smaller. So understanding the fundamentals of what a PC does, how a processor works, how a graphics card works, what they can do to decrease latency caused by their internet service provider. All of these things are important to a competitive esports player. And so they need to know how the fundamentals of how PCs work in order to minimize those things that could be slowing them down. It's like having a baseball player and giving them the difference between, a Louisville Slugger and a wiffle ball bat, and wow. knowing that they've accidentally picked up the wiffle ball bat instead of the Louisville.
Oh my gosh, because you wouldn't even know, right?
Exactly.
Because on a computer, how do you know? How do you know?
Well, we have to basically teach them how computers work and how IT infrastructure works, so that they can then go back to their house and increase the way that their router talks to their computer, prioritizes their connection over other connections. They understand where the bottlenecks are in their PC as far as performance goes, and be able to upgrade those PCs in the necessary way, so they're not only increasing their performance, but also maximizing their money, because PC parts are expensive. So if they know that, hey, if I can spend $50 and replace this RAM, I'll get this much of a percentage boost. But if I spend $250 and replace my GPU, then I'll only get this much. So the RAM is the better option. So, but they can't make those decisions unless they know how those components work and work with each other. So yeah, it's very much an introduction to IT fundamentals. Sure. And next year, my district is even going further and going to have me teach a course in that.
No way. So this is going to
divorced.
become a full-time thing.
Yeah,
This is going to go in the direction of becoming a thing where, and as it should, right? As it should. Wow. Congratulations to you on being like one of the groundbreaking people in this world, because I think we're going to see this everywhere.
thank you.
I think e-gaming is going to be like varsity basketball. I think you're going to see it everywhere, and I think you're going to see championships for it everywhere, and I think it's super cool. How can, like, if I'm a teacher and I'm just kind of sitting here listening to this or watching this and I'm interested, like, where do I even start?
Well,
Thanks, Shelly. Keep commenting. Yeah. Or ask any questions that you might have of Philip.
what I would say to teachers who are looking to start these kinds of programs is go to your administrators, go to your building principals, to your district administrators. You'd be surprised at how much support you might receive. The best way to start is to start. If you have a console of your own and you want to be able to share that with students, start a voluntary club after school with, of course, the permission of your building leadership, and show them that this kind of program can bring students to the school, can bring students to the table, and can get them engaged in ways that they wouldn't be engaged with otherwise. We'd actually, my colleague Daniel Billings at the middle school and I had started a chess and tabletop gaming club for a couple of years before we brought up esports, where we had students coming up after school one day a week and playing chess and board games and Dungeons and Dragons. And from those core group of kids, I think we really were the core group that also came along with esports. And like I said, we have a population in my high school of about 1,000 students, and through the class and my club, I reach about almost 20% of those students either come through my door 3 hours a day for esports, or come 8 hours a week after school for practice for the individual teams. And
so I'm sorry, how many hours a week of practice? Like, if you're on the team?
So each of our games, so for each team, it's at least a minimum of 2 hours of practice a week after school with me. And then, of course, I encourage them to work with each other, because all of our games are played online. They can be all at their own homes. And I've seen many times, like I said, when we had snow days, when these kids are out of school, they're reviewing tape, and they're in our voice
What does
channels.
that mean? Be specific. Like, when they say they're reviewing tape, what do you mean specifically?
So, like, for instance, Overwatch. Overwatch, you can record your matches, and we also stream. Esports Broadcasting is a large part of our program, and I have a student-led, student-directed esports program that broadcasts our matches and commentates like you would for any other sporting event. Like,
so there's actually like live announcers broadcasting what they're watching.
In the world of esports, we call it shoutcasting, but
Shoutcast.
you could think of it just like ESPN, but for video games, where I have a technical commentator and a caller commentary, and where they talk about what's going on and the strategies being employed, and the records of the individual players and teams. Like, it's like watching any other sporting event, except you're watching make-believe people on a screen, duke it out. And
that's awesome.
But that is another program, opportunity for them to engage with the world of tech, with STEM, and also shoutcasting is becoming a huge thing in and of itself. So even if they're not good behind the keyboard or with the controller in their hand, but want to be involved with the program, I've got this alternate avenue for them to also be involved with esports. And I've worked with our broadcasting department here, which is led by a wonderful educator named Melinda Perez. And we've grown our esports, or what we call MAC Esports Broadcasting program, now that we are on Twitch at Lawton MHS on Twitch. And we have started broadcasting games live with student commentary, and it's student directed, both from a script point of view to a technical point of view. Kids are using ATM Blackmagic broadcasting boards to switch between multiple cameras. Man. And that's all them. Like, once the match has started, I'm over on the other side of the room coaching, and my broadcast kids are fully in charge of the broadcast.
How do you coach? Like, how do you coach a esports game, so to speak? Is it like coaching a regular game? Like, or are
Absolutely.
you talking to your athlete? You call them athletes? What do you
We
call
do.
them?
We call them athletes. Yeah.
Okay, so
They are
you
student
are you
athletes.
talking? They are. No question. They are. Are you talking to them like throughout the entire game? Or are you
During a match? Our league rules prevent me from communicating with them while an active match is going. So I talk to them before. We set up strategy for what they're going to do, and then as the match progresses, they'll have breaks, rounds between matches depending on the game. And in those instances, in those breaks, I come to them and say, "Hey, this isn't working. That isn't working." But I also have some wonderful student captains who do those, that what we call, coaching on the field if we were playing baseball or football, who direct them mid match.
Cool, man. Cool.
And it's
so other players can direct them mid match, but
yes,
the coach can't.
That's correct. And
Interesting.
so it's in a way for us to identify student leaders, and those student leaders then get the opportunity to display that leadership, to control their students, to control their fellow players, to direct them. Uh, we have very strict comms rules and communications rules where they're all on mic, and they can all hear each other, so they can say, "Hey, this guy's over here," or "That guy's over here," or "Hey, I'm hurt, I need healing," or whatever. But we have very strict rules where, like, our team captain's the only one that should be talking unless a specific call out is needed. And so it's like any other team activity. It's an exercise in sportsmanship and team play, and being able to identify those things and encourage those things is just another aspect, like any other sport or activity, that we get to bring those qualities out in students. I don't know how much gaming you've done online, but it can be a pretty toxic place.
Not much.
Online gaming.
I'm afraid of it. Truthfully, I'll be honest with you. That's like, I think the reason I haven't, it's like a lot of new things in the world that you're not used to. I think I just am fearful of it. And, look, I'm already on social media, and the beating that you can take on there from people who disagree with you or don't like what you're doing. So I just haven't gotten into it myself as much, but I love games and I love engagement, right? So this is what I wanted to say. Like, you started kind of this whole conversation by saying you got into this to improve student engagement, right? Like, yes. You didn't get into this to make a kid really great at being an athlete, right? No. You got into this because you're interested in student engagement. Take me through the process of how this specific, because I think that's the avenue for a lot of people to go who aren't sure, like, how to get this going. If you could go in and say, I'm going to prove to you that I'm going to increase student engagement, you will immediately get people to listen to you.
So yeah, like, student engagement and academic success have always been our number one driver. Not just myself, but the other coaches who are helping me develop this program. We're working all together. There's 3 high schools in my district and 3 middle schools, and we all work together. We all are building this program together, and our number one goal has always been to increase student engagement and student academic success. And this was just another tool. I think that it would be fairly obvious, like it was for us, that once we announced to our student populations that this is a thing that was going to happen, that you're going to see that student engagement be, blatantly obvious. When I have to limit the number, I have only a certain number of devices in my classroom. And
how many devices do you have?
I have 12 PCs and 3 consoles, currently 4 consoles currently, and not counting my broadcast setup, which I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Thanks. we like I said, we've had wonderful support from our district, who provided a lot of our broadcast equipment, and it's made all the world of difference. But I can have about 24 students per hour in my class. And when you talk to our counselors, and our counselors are calling me, begging me to open it up to more students, because the demand from the student population is so high that there aren't very many classes that can say that, like, that. Right. Students are begging. There, you can't see it, it's just off camera, but I keep notes from other teachers releasing their students to my class. They like this so and so has completed all their work and has this passing grade, and they're asking if they can come to your class if allowed. And I'm keeping them as a kind of a mosaic over here as to show that.
How many do you have?
Oh, probably right now there's probably 40 or 50 over there, and that's just since December when I moved to everything over to this section. And it doesn't matter if they're on my team or not. These kids want to come in here. They want to their semester test at Christmas was building network cables. They all got to build their own Ethernet cables and take those home with them afterwards. These were working Ethernet cables that they could plug into their computer to their modem and go. And so,
do you teach them how to do all this stuff? And if so,
yeah,
how did you learn all of it?
Well, I'm a PC guy from way back. In 1993, 94, I was a freshman in high school and taking a computers class. Don't know about your experience with computers classes in high school, but in the 90s, it was very much a glorified typing class.
Right.
And
That's right.
the few friends I had in high school, we were all building PCs and playing games, and by senior year, we took computers 2, I think it was at the time. And instead of actually taking the typing curricula that had been prescribed to us, we built the networks for our high school and this is a small town. So all of the schools were kind of really close together from the grade school to the high school. And we built computer labs for like the grade school and ran networking cable. This is before
It's crazy.
This is before schools had big IT departments.
I thought you were going to say you were hacking. I could see that you.
No.
All right.
Nothing illegal. But no, we modded a lot, but I wouldn't call us hackers. But no, yeah. So I've been building PCs since my teenage years in the mid '90s, and never really stopped doing that. Even though I went to school for English and graduate school for English, I've always been a kind of a techie, and keeping up on the latest thing. And I've built, I don't even know how many PCs over the course of my life. And like part of our program, I have 5 machines that sit in my room that through grant money I bought the components for because it was cheaper to buy components than it was to buy a pre-built PC at the time. It's not so much the case at the moment because of all the silicon shortages, but and I built those PCs for our program, so as a way to give us more bang for the buck.
Wow. That's just so fascinating. So, couple questions on here. Somebody writes, what would you recommend if you want to start small, like junior high, 3 school, charter network, homegrown, small scale lunch? Like what again, what does somebody do to get started tomorrow?
So, like I said, the best way to get started quickly is through consoles. PCs, especially in the current market because of silicon shortages, consoles are the way to go. Nintendo Switches are relatively cheap. I think an OLED Switch currently runs for about $350, and then a few more controllers, and within about $500-$600, you could have 8 to 10 kids playing regularly, and playing games like Super Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. Mario Kart's getting to be pretty big in the high school, middle school realm. It wouldn't take anything at all to get that started. I find it hard to believe that a district couldn't find you $500 to get that kind of thing started.
Agreed.
And from there, you can build to having PCs. Our middle schools, I think, play Rocket League on PC, and they play Super Smash Brothers on console, and they're actually starting to think about competitive Minecraft, which is new to me and I'm not really familiar with, but I know that that's a age appropriate game. And when I was at the middle school, our biggest concern was parents having pushback on the kinds of games we played. We don't want Call of Duty kind of blood and guts games for the ages of 6th through 8th grade, 12 to 13 or so, or 10 to 13. And so we focused on games that were more more genre appropriate for those for those age groups. But once I came into high school, I could start adding more mature titles because these are, high school sophomores, juniors, seniors that could play more advanced games. But to really get started, especially at that junior high, middle school level, then I would focus mainly on the console play. And there are organizations like the High School Esports League, which also has a middle school component called the Middle School Esports League. That's a national league, and you play against schools from all over the country, up to including like Guam and the U.S.
Right.
Virgin Islands.
You can play people anywhere in the world, and you don't have to
Yeah.
travel, right? There's
And
no travel budget because you can basically be anywhere and play against anyone. It's one of the
absolutely.
amazing things about the computer.
Absolutely. And we actually belong in Oklahoma at the high school level to Oklahoma Esports League, a local homegrown league. And we have, I think at last count, 32 schools in the state that participate from 6A to and down. And we all play each other. And
Crazy.
one of the great things about esports is we're a 5A school here at my building, but we regularly play 6A1 and 6A2 schools, which are 2-3 times our size, and win. But because
Right.
behind the keyboard, everybody's the same.
Right.
When you only need to find 3 players that play at a higher level, you can play at a high level regardless of how big your school is. We actually play against a local town called Geronimo, and I bet their graduating classes are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 200 kids. I don't know that for sure, but they're a very small town, like the small town that I came from, Cash, and I graduated with 100 other people. And we play against those, and they play against 6A schools, and they win. They have one of the better programs in the state, and it just all comes down to how much effort your kids are willing to put in to participating in your program and to following the things that you're putting out there. And so it doesn't matter how big a school you are or how old your kids are, there is a game and an organization that's just waiting for you to pick it up and join with them. And I think once you show them, there's tons of research coming out now over the last few years about esports in schools and about its effect on student retention and engagement, about student attendance. Student attendance is a huge push for our district over the last few years, like making sure that our kids are in the seats. And if they're gone, they can't do their work, right? If they're gone, they can't learn the things that they need to learn. But kids don't want to miss my class. Kids don't want to miss practice after school. And so if they call in sick, they can't do those things. So they have to be here. They have to be in the chair to participate in my program and to participate in my class. And in so doing that, they're also in math class. They're also in English class. They're also in their bio class. And
but what's cool kind of sounds like to me about what you do is there's a little bit of every content within there. Like there's math lessons to be taught probably all day within gaming and computers.
It is very much a STEM project, and so we have all sorts of technology that goes on. And at the middle school, my colleague Daniel started a game design class where kids are actually coding to create games and to create 8-bit games at the middle school level. These are kids who are 11, 12, 13 years old, who are coding and building video games.
Amazing.
Like on their own. And so, yeah, it is absolutely a STEM field. But like with my esports broadcasting, there's communications lessons. They write scripts. They have to have their script approved. There's editing. There's literally everything that they learn in their education can be applied to here. And I'm not being hyperbolic here, because like any other sport, your physical fitness is important. Like your reaction times go down if you don't get enough rest, if you're not hydrated, if you're out of shape. So encouraging better sleep schedules and diet and all of those things that come right from their anatomy class or their bio class. That these are the things that also apply to esports or competitive high level video game
Well,
play.
I think that's interesting because I think there's a stereotype out there, probably I have it included, of you're a lazy person who doesn't really want to do much and you just want to sit around on the couch all day and play video games. And I think that's how a lot of parents view it. That's how a lot of teachers view it. And what you're saying is, which makes a whole lot of sense, that might be true in certain aspects of it, like it is true in any aspect of anything. But in order to be competitive and at the top levels, you got to be in great shape, and you got to have your physical body as a part of that.
Yeah, like if you get winded going up a flight of stairs because you're so out of shape, then I'm gonna have a faster reaction time than you because I'm not. We're gonna have, especially games like League of Legends, which can go on for quite some time. You're like 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours for one game. Your stamina is important because if you start getting tired or then your reaction times go down and then I beat you. And so it's important, just as important for them to practice their button pressing as it is for them to stay in physical shape.
Crazy.
And I have baseball players that play on my team. I have football players that play on my team. There are kids who are just as active traditionally athletically, as they are committed to playing video games. And if you watch some of the world championships, watch the Overwatch World Championship or the Rocket League World Championships, and find me an out of shape competitor,
right?
I'll pay you $1.
Okay. So you're not finding out of shape competitors
no.
at the top levels.
At the top levels, their fitness and health regimens are just as rigorous as any other competitive athletic event.
Do you teach? Is there a way, and do you find a way to teach social skills through this as well? Because I think that's another thing that some people might say, okay, well, you're playing video games all day, you're not developing social skills. Are they able to develop social skills through this?
Social skills is huge. I started to talk about this earlier. Online gaming is pretty, what we could say, toxic. People talk a lot of trash to each other online when they can't see each other, and students, often teenagers, fall into that trap of rage quitting, where they throw their controller and or
I love how you got terms for everything. So rage quitting, that's called?
Yes, where you just throw, like if you were playing Monopoly and flip the board, that's a rage quit. Yeah,
I got you.
But
I'm more a Scrabble guy, but I get your point.
But so like any other organized activity, sportsmanship and better citizenry is key to me, and I know it is to my other coaches, that we're not just making better game players, we want to make better citizens. And so if you play for me, you're not only representing yourself, you're representing your school, and that you need to understand that your behavior doesn't only look poorly on yourself, it looks poorly on your peers and your school as an institution. And my students have all taken that seriously. We have some shorthands that say, like, that they don't do certain things when they're playing for our school. And I know, because I engage with them in an app called Discord. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a social media communications app where it's closed loop, where it's just my team and myself and a few other coaches. And I see them talking to each other about their behavior, like, hey man, like, can't do that. We're on our school accounts, like, this is not acceptable. And so they start policing each other and their behavior. And so sportsmanship is amazing to me. Like we have a inner city rival with another high school, and one of their star players, that player who's probably going to get the $40,000 scholarship, actually came over in his time off from their team last year to help coach up my team on a game that I wasn't familiar with, that he's amazing at. He's like, hey, Coach Harrington, do you mind if I come over and watch? Maybe I can give some feedback. And he came over and he spent probably 4 hours with my team, coaching them up in the things that they were missing and deficient, so they could be better, because he, like all of our other athletes, wants to see this program succeed. And we can only succeed if we all work together. And getting to see that student citizens that want to see their fellow students, even if they play for the rival high school, succeed is pretty amazing. And I always applaud that coach, Charles Leslie, over there, for creating a program that really has put out a bunch of upstanding young people. And these are kids that would have been sitting in the back of class, waiting for the bell every day, and now they're spending their Saturdays going across to the rival team to help make sure that everybody's got the support they needed and everything. So yeah, student citizenship and sportsmanship, just like any other activity. Like I tell them, if someone were to go and score a touchdown and then go stand over their opposing player and talk all kinds of garbage, they'd get a flag, right? Like, we might not get a flag here. There might not be a ref standing to the side to throw a yellow piece of fabric, but your coach is watching and the people on Twitch are watching, and I'm going
So
to
there's
throw a
people
flag.
live watching, right? Like these
Yes.
games. And which is cool too, because as a parent, you can be anywhere and watch your kid's activity, which is
Absolutely.
pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like we just this semester, we worked all last semester getting the students where they needed to be from a professional standpoint, knowing what they can and cannot say, and getting those bad habits to be broken, the toxic gamer habits, where we like to, like, talk a lot of junk, and getting those things broken to where that we could trust them to be live on mic and be live on mic, announcing a game against a team that you might want to rub it in their face, but you can't do that because we have to maintain professional, a certain journalistic professional distance. Even though we're our home team and this is our home team that we're rooting for, we cannot cross that line from rooting to being negative against the other team.
That's the old journalism, by the way.
Yeah,
The new journalism is directly aligned, by the way, with certain sides, but it's not supposed to be, but
well, no,
it is, right?
so
right.
so yeah, we're going more old school, I guess you
That's
could say,
good.
and old
That's
school and the
good.
new old school here, that I want them to, I told them they can be, what in sports journalism it's called a homer. They can root for the home team, but they cannot be negative against the opposing team. And I want to show them that they can do those things where you can be supportive without being destructive. And
Yeah.
and they've really come along. I have a good group of about 6 or 8 kids that are camera ready and mic ready, where I can trust them to do the things and not worry about having that 30-second delay and
So as a coach, right? As a coach, like if I'm a varsity baseball coach and I have an unbelievable athlete, right? There's a path. There's a path. I'm not saying it's an easy path, and I'm not saying it's a path that you're gonna necessarily get and succeed on, but there is a path for you to make a substantial living doing this, right?
Yeah.
Does that path exist for your e-gamers? And if so, what does that path look like, and how do you get them on that path?
Well, like any other sport, there's the collegiate path where they potentially have the opportunity to play for a college, both at a scholarship level or just as like what we would call in traditional sports as a walk-on, before they could get a scholarship. Our local university has an esports team. The university that's 20 minutes from where I'm sitting right now has an esports team and offers scholarships.
Which university is that?
It's Cameron University in Lawton.
Cameron.
Yeah. But OU has the esports, OSU, UCO, OCU, OCCC. They all have esports.
It sounds like Oklahoma is really on the ball with the esports.
The University of Texas at Arlington just hired a head esports coach. So, I mean, this is going everywhere.
So they have head esports coaches at these colleges. What do those guys make? I'm curious. I mean, a head football coach makes $5 million a year, or $7 million a year. I get that it's not there, but are they making you can make a living, right? You can make a living, solid living being an esports coach.
It's comparative to being a university professor. I think at most of the universities that offer full-time positions, it's like being not an adjunct, but an associate level professor.
Yeah. And it's going to grow. It's going to grow because it's going to bring in revenue. And when it starts to bring in revenue for the university, the people bringing in the revenue make more money. That's how it works.
But to continue to answer your original question, there's also a path towards professional playing. There are professional esports teams in most major cities. The Dallas Spark, I believe, is the Overwatch team for Dallas, and they are I think at least partially funded by Jerry Jones. Like this is something that
Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, yeah, and this is something that businessmen like Mr. Jones have seen early on, that it's going to be something that is huge. It's already huge. It's already a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's also something like you said before. You don't have to travel with the team. There's no team playing for
Right, there's no
Overwatch. You know,
expenses.
like you have even if you bring
So
people
what do
together.
those guys make? Like what is a top player on a Dallas, so to speak, esports team make? I'm curious.
Well, top players in esports make millions of dollars a year.
Millions of dollars. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You're a multi-millionaire if you're at the top of this.
I feel like there was a 14-year-old a few years ago that won over $1 million playing Fortnite. So I mean, yeah, this, like any other competitive athletic endeavor, is a young man's game, and it's just a fact of biology that as you age, this older guys, I'm 42.
Young person. Yeah, I'm going to correct you. Young person's game.
Yeah, young person's game. Thank you.
Correct.
Absolutely. And your reaction time's slower
Sure.
than someone who's younger. Like 20-year-old baseball player is going to be faster than the 40-year-old baseball player, and the same applies to esports. And so these kids getting started in middle school, just like any other athletic endeavor, or grade school even, this is the path they can take.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to spend 8 hours in a batting cage on a Saturday, I'm going to have you spending 8 hours doing wall shots in Rocket League. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. And then also there's a path on YouTube, right? So I know that YouTube is huge for gamers, right? I know there's certain sort of worlds that YouTube is great for. Working out is another one, right? If you're a personal trainer, YouTube's great for you because people watch your whole videos, right? There and gaming is the same thing, right? And you can make a substantial living, I think, on YouTube, even just breaking down games and videos.
Yeah. So there's streamer culture, which is kind of where our broadcast program is directed, and that's for platforms like YouTube and for Twitch, and even Facebook gaming is starting to take off, where people just play games, or they, like you said, break down other people playing games, or they break down tricks and tips for games, and make sizable incomes, or 6-figure incomes playing on Twitch. I think they have several streamers that are making millions of dollars a year through either endorsements or their direct revenue from those platforms like YouTube and Twitch.
Right, endorsements. I forgot about endorsements too, because you get all these companies that want to sell their products. Well, who's going to sell them? Just like a pro snowboarder is going to, wear Monster Energy on their helmet, right? What are the companies that are looking to get to those kids or to that world?
Like Razer Game Mouses, who make video game equipment, and I mean, they make all sorts of computer equipment, but they're big in the gaming area. They're going to reach out to that Twitch streamer or that YouTuber that's got 10 million followers and say, hey, will you use my game, or will you sit in my gaming chair, like AK Racing back there, like, and they'll pay them to just sit in that chair on stream. And so, like any other athletic or entertainment industry, sponsorships and endorsements are a huge thing.
That's awesome. Listen, these times go quick. I'm only supposed to be doing 45 minutes to an hour with people. So some people ask for info. If you don't mind, can you type your information in the comments there? Like if somebody wants to get a hold of you or reach out to you or touch base with you, how can they do it? How can they do that? How can they find you? What's the best way to reach you? And then is there any last bit of, I always ask this of everybody, knowledge, wisdom, information that you would like to leave people with?
As soon as I figure out how to type in chat, I'll put my information.
So if you go in the chat and you click it where it says post a comment, you see that? Can you see the chat at least?
I can see the chat. I just don't see.
So at the very bottom of the chat, you should be able to click and where it says
I might
post.
have
to. He just left me. That's pretty funny. He's trying. So, right. The E-Game X. There you go. There he's back.
Okay. I think I found it.
The e-gaming computer guy who's built computers his whole life just left the conversation by mistake.
Clicked a wrong button there. I'll put it up there.
Or do you want to tell it to me and I can type it in?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just Philip.Harrington at Lawton PS, Lawton Public Schools.
Harrington
One L in Philip.
Yep, at LAWTON.
ps.org. That's my school email, and I'm always willing to reach to talk to anybody who's thinking about starting a program. And
There you go. It's out there.
I don't remember what your last question was, but yeah, the last words.
Just, is there anything you would like to leave people with? Any knowledge or advice or thoughts that you'd like to leave people with?
Don't be afraid to reach out to people, and you might, like Daniel and I thought we were the only ones who thought this would be something that was worthwhile. And once we reached out, we were flooded with support. And so you'd be surprised at how many people who are out there just waiting for someone to suggest this and then to throw their weight behind it. People we never expected, like, our superintendent was immediately on board and saw the value. So don't be afraid to reach out and to speak up and say, hey, I think this is something that could benefit our students, that we could use this to make a better school and to make better citizens.
Yeah. And I think anything that improves engagement, improves growth, improves, friendships, inclusion, getting kids involved in something, right? We say that all the time. Like, what is the something that the kid is involved in, and what's the connection that they have to the school? And, and if they don't have that, what are the avenues to explore? And so many kids love video games so much. And it's so cool to me that now there's like a place where they can really go and do them and learn from an expert and learn all about skills and sportsmanship and, self-control and all of these skills that we're always trying to teach kids through the passion that they already have, which is really cool. So shout out to you, man. Congratulations on doing this, on what you do. It's a huge inspiration, and I think it's really neat. So it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. It was good seeing you. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, download, subscribe, review, do all those things. I'm going to try to do these for everybody every Saturday morning at 9. So Saturday mornings at 9 live on Facebook and YouTube. And then, of course, it will come out on my podcast stream on that following Monday, anywhere you get podcasts. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, rate, subscribe, download, review. I'll be back same time next week. Until then, I say peace. We're out of here.